If you think doctors always save your life, you are wrong. Well, they may want to though, but limited by the knowledge of their time, doctors have made tremendous mistakes that actually harmed patients, including famous historical figures. For example, doctors used to be obsessed with mercury. They prescribed this shiny death liquid for syphilis, constipation, and even depression. When patients started sweating and drooling, doctors cheered, thinking the sickness was leaving the body. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. It was the body screaming for help. Here are 5 famous people who trusted their doctors and paid the ultimate price. Let's start in 210 BCE with the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang. This is the guy who built the Great Wall and the Terracotta Army. He had everything, except enough time. Qin Shi Huang was terrified of dying, so he hired alchemists to brew him an elixir of life. They came back with immortality pills. The main ingredient? You guessed it, mercury. The alchemists believed mercury was magical because it was a liquid metal that never seemed to die or dry up. The logic was, if I eat the eternal metal, I become eternal. The result? He died on a road trip at age 49. In fact, the pills likely caused organ failure. The saddest part? To hide his death until they got back to the capital, his servants packed his carriage with rotting salted fish to cover up the smell of his decomposing body. So instead of eternal life, he got a stinky fish wagon. Next up, Russia, 1584, Ivan the Terrible. He wasn't just called terrible because he was bad at math. He was known for fits of psychotic rage. Ivan suffered from terrible joint pain and, very likely, syphilis. Back then, the rhyme was, one night with Venus, a lifetime with Mercury. Doctors would literally boil mercury and make patients sit in a tent and inhale the vapors. Mercury attacks the central nervous system. It causes paranoia, tremors, and hallucinations. It turns out Ivan's famous rage might have been a heavy metal bad trip. In one of these fits of rage, he actually beat his own son and heir to death with a staff. When Soviet scientists dug up Ivan's body in the 1960s, his bones had massive amounts of mercury in them. Let's jump to England, 1685. King Charles II, the Merry Monarch. One morning, he collapsed with a stroke. His doctors panicked and decided to throw the entire medical textbook at him. This event is famous in medical history as the torture of Charles II. They drained his blood. They force-fed him human skull extract. They gave him enemas. But the cherry on top? They poured spirit of skull, which contained mercury, down his throat, plus pure mercury distillations to balance his humors. Unsurprisingly, the king died. But because he was a gentleman, his last words were literally an apology to his doctors for taking so long to die. Polite to the end, even while they were accidentally poisoning him. Isaac Newton, genius, physicist, virgin, and massive fan of mercury. Before he figured out gravity, Newton was obsessed with alchemy. He wanted to turn lead into gold. We have his old notebooks, and they are filled with recipes involving boiling mercury. And because safety goggles hadn't been invented yet, he was breathing the stuff in daily. He even tasted the chemicals to identify them. In 1693, the genius cracked. He had a total nervous breakdown. He wrote crazy letters to his friends, accusing them of trying to trap him with women. He couldn't sleep. He shook uncontrollably. Historians call this his Mercury period. Luckily, he stopped doing alchemy, recovered his brain, and went back to math. If he hadn't, we might not have calculus today. Actually, maybe he should have kept drinking it. I hate calculus. Finally, the 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Before the Civil War, Honest Abe suffered from melancholy, what we now call depression, and chronic constipation. His doctors prescribed blue mass pills. These were little balls of pepper, licorice, and a huge chunk of mercury. Lincoln took these daily. But Lincoln noticed something. The pills made him weird. He became prone to violent mood swings. He once grabbed a local politician by the neck and shook him like a rag doll.
Lincoln realized the pills were making him cross, so shortly after becoming president, he quit cold turkey. Thank goodness he did. Imagine if Lincoln was suffering from Mercury rage during the Civil War. History would look very different. That's it. If you enjoyed this tour of toxic history, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And tell me in the comments which historical medical cure scares you the most, leeches or liquid metal. See you next time.